Most travelers come to Croatia for the coastline. But beyond the famous beaches and historic cities are waterfalls that look almost unreal. Islands where life still moves slowly, mountain landscapes few visitors expect, and villages that seem untouched by time. And most travelers never see all of it. Because Croatia isn't just a summer destination. It's several completely different journeys in one country, each one revealing a version of Croatia that contradicts what most people imagine before they arrive. What people think Croatia is. When people think of Croatia, they usually picture the Adriatic Sea, historic coastal towns, island hopping, and crystal-clear water that photographs almost too perfectly. And that version absolutely exists. Dubrovnik's ancient walls catch the morning light in ways that feel cinematic. Hvar's harbors fill with sailboats in summer, and the Adriatic's color shifts from turquoise to deep blue depending on the hour and the depth. But Croatia stretches far beyond its coastline. Mountains rise inland, forming landscapes that most visitors on coastal holidays never encounter. National parks cover large areas of the country, protecting ecosystems that feel entirely removed from the tourist trail. And small towns reveal a very different side of Croatian life, where agriculture, wine, and tradition shape daily routines in ways the coastline never shows. Once you move beyond the postcard locations, Croatia starts to surprise you. And the surprises don't stop coming. Dubrovnik, the anchor. For many travelers, Dubrovnik becomes the starting point. Surrounded by ancient walls and facing the Adriatic Sea, it's one of Europe's most recognizable cities, and for good reason. And every corner seems to reveal another view of the sea, framed by stone archways and terracotta rooftops that have barely changed in centuries. It's easy to understand why Dubrovnik became world famous. The scale of it, the preservation of it, the way the city manages to feel both ancient and alive at the same time. But Croatia's story extends far beyond these walls, and the further you travel from Dubrovnik, the more clearly you see how much of the country remains undiscovered by the majority of visitors who fly in, walk the walls, and fly home believing they've understood Croatia. Croatia's islands. Scattered along Croatia's coastline are more than 1,000 islands, each with its own character, its own pace, and its own relationship with the sea. Some attract visitors with lively harbors and nightlife, offering restaurants and bars that stay open well past midnight in the height of summer. Others remain quiet and traditional, connected to the mainland by occasional ferries and largely bypassed by international tourism. On many islands, fishing remains part of daily life rather than simply a backdrop for photographs. Boats leave early in the morning and return with catch that ends up on restaurant tables the same afternoon. Stone houses line narrow streets built before cars existed, their walls worn smooth by centuries of foot traffic and salt air. And the pace feels very different from the mainland, slower and more deliberate, shaped by geography and isolation, and a culture that developed largely on its own terms. This is where many travelers discover a slower side of Croatia, one that exists between ferry schedules and requires patience to find. Plitvice Lakes National Park. Far from the coastline lies one of Croatia's most remarkable landscapes. Plitvice Lakes National Park. A series of 16 terraced lakes connected by waterfalls that flow through forest and over limestone formations shaped by centuries of mineral deposits. Wooden walkways cross directly above the water, placing visitors inches from waterfalls that cascade into pools so clear the bottom is visible at considerable depth, creating colors that often look edited even when they aren't. In autumn, the surrounding forest turns gold and red, adding a layer of warmth to the already vivid blues and greens of the water below. For many visitors, Plitvice becomes one of the biggest surprises in the country, because it looks nothing like the Croatia they expected when they booked their trip thinking of beaches and Dubrovnik's famous walls. It's a reminder that geography in Croatia is layered in ways that no single image can capture. Most visitors leave Croatia thinking they've seen it, but the deeper you explore, the more it changes. The coastline gives way to forest. The famous cities give way to villages where very few tourists ever walk, and the version of Croatia you imagined before you arrived turns out to be only one small chapter of a much longer story. If you enjoy discovering destinations beyond the obvious, this channel is built for that. Village life and local culture. One thing many travelers remember about Croatia isn't only the scenery, it's the atmosphere. In smaller towns, daily life often revolves around community in ways that feel increasingly rare in more heavily touristed places. Markets remain gathering places where locals shop for vegetables, cheese, and olive oil produced within a few kilometers of the stall. Conversation happens slowly and without urgency. Families still meet in public squares in the evenings, occupying the same benches and cafe chairs that have served the same purpose for generations. And traditions continue to shape everyday life in ways that aren't performed for visitors, but simply exist as the natural rhythm of communities that predate tourism by centuries. The further you move from the major tourist centers, the more visible this side of Croatia becomes, and the more it feels like the country's truest version. Inland Croatia. Many visitors never venture inland. And that's where Croatia reveals another personality entirely. The coastline gives way to forests, hills, and agricultural regions where the dominant concerns shift from boat schedules and beach towels to harvests, seasons, and the slow work of growing things from soil. Wine country stretches across parts of the interior, producing varieties that rarely appear on international wine lists, but hold deep significance locally. Roads wind through landscapes that feel surprisingly peaceful, connecting villages where foreign visitors are uncommon and where the experience of passing through feels genuinely unscripted. It's a side of Croatia that receives far less attention than the coast. Food and culture. Croatian food reflects the country's geography in direct and honest ways. Along the coast, seafood dominates many menus, prepared simply with olive oil, garlic, and herbs grown nearby. Grilled fish arrives whole. Shellfish comes fresh from water that's visible from the restaurant terrace. Olive oil, fresh vegetables, and regional wines appear throughout the country, connecting different regions through shared ingredients even when the preparations diverge. Meals often feel simple, but deeply connected to place and season and the particular landscape that produced the ingredients on the table. Why travelers are looking beyond Dubrovnik. Travel habits in Croatia are changing as visitors discover that the country offers considerably more than its most famous city. Many visitors still come for Dubrovnik, drawn by photographs that have circulated online for years and by a reputation that has only grown with international cultural attention. But increasingly, travelers are exploring further, treating Croatia as a country to move through rather than a single destination to reach and then leave. Island hopping across less visited stretches of the Adriatic where boat traffic is lighter and the experience feels more personal. National parks, where landscapes reveal a different ecological reality from the sun-bleached stone of coastal towns. Road trips through inland regions, where the tourist infrastructure thins out and local life becomes more visible. And smaller towns that offer a more authentic experience of what Croatia actually is beyond its most photographed corners. Because many people now want more than famous landmarks. They want discovery, and the feeling that comes from finding something that wasn't already waiting to be found. Who this side of Croatia is for? This side of Croatia is for travelers who enjoy variety and aren't satisfied by a single version of any destination. For people who want coastlines and mountains without having to choose between them. History and nature existing within the same trip, sometimes within the same afternoon. Famous places and quieter discoveries balanced in ways that make the famous places feel more meaningful, and the quiet discoveries feel more rewarding. Croatia offers all of it, often within a single trip, connected by roads and ferries and the simple decision to keep moving rather than staying only where everyone else stays. Croatia isn't just beaches and ancient cities. It's islands, forests, traditions, and landscapes that change dramatically from one region to another without warning and without the need for explanation. And once you move beyond the obvious places, you realize how much more there is. Subscribe for more journeys beyond the tourist version. And tell us, would you choose Croatia's islands or its waterfalls first?